Welcome to the PRIF Mining Consortium 2023 Final Research Conference. Let me start by acknowledging and paying our respect to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. I will be your MC for the day. My name is Ruth Shaw. I am the manager of the Australian Research Council, ARC, Training Centre for Integrated Operations for Complex Resources, an outcome and legacy of the PRIF Mining Consortium. Today we will showcase the inventions and innovations of the PRIF Mining Consortium and the Training Centre research teams, and celebrate the many achievements both in people's research and in people's personal lives. The PRIF achievements would not have been made possible without Dr. Tatiana Kamelova. Tatiana is the PRIF Mining Consortium Manager. She's more than 10 years of research experience in the field of mineral processing and is honoured to lead the inspiring and talented PRIF team. She's helping researchers, academics and industry partners to achieve their strategic goals and new heights. Now, I'll be providing a little tidbit about each person today to help you understand them beyond their work. So outside of work, Tatiana and her family have a deep appreciation for the performing arts and visual arts. So if you have any questions or need assistance with anything related to PRIF, Mining Consortium, or recommendations for a show, please feel free to have a chat with Tatiana. Now, onto the business for today. With regards to housekeeping, in case of an emergency, please follow the Wine Centre staff. Tommy will be our saviour for the day. The toilets are down the corridor and to the left on the same level. Morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea and networking drinks will be in the back of the room and in the hallway. We will follow the agenda as closely as possible today. We've had a couple of changes to panel members, but the timing remains the same. Please refer to the displayed agenda on the wall. Research posters are displayed in the foyer, so please take the opportunity during the breaks to have a look at those posters. During today's program, after each presentation, we'll have time for just one question from the room. Everett and Reza, Training Centre PhD students, will be operating the roving microphone, so please wait for the microphone before asking a question so that the online audience can hear your question. Can the online audience please send their questions via the Zoom chat, and that will be monitored by Zara and Sultan, also Training Centre PhD students. So this morning's online questions, along with any additional questions the room has, will be addressed before the panel discussion before lunch. And this afternoon's online questions will be addressed before this afternoon's panel discussion. But stick with me and I'll lead you through it. So let's get started. First off, we will welcome Professor Nigel Cook, the Director of the PRIF Mining Consortium. Along with the many achievements of PRIF, Nigel has been named Australia's research leader in the field of mineralogy in geochemistry in 2020, 2022 and 2023. Nigel has also named a new mineral, clogoite, after the Clogau mine in Wales, where they get the gold for the royal wedding rings, which just cements my theory that mineralogists make up mineral names as they go along, often during research meetings. But we're not putting his PhD students to go higher, further and faster. He's fighting the weeds in his garden to do the exact opposite. Welcome, Professor Nigel Cook.
Thanks, Ruth. I think I was the one who introduced you to mineral names. You're doing a great job with it. Okay, well, first of all, good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's research conference of the Premier's Research and Industry Fund Research Consortia Programme, Unlocking Complex Resources Through Lean Processing, or simply the PRIF, to everybody who has worked with us over the last 6.5 years. It really is fantastic to see so many of our industry partners here today, as well as the representatives from the 2 universities and departments of state government. I'd particularly like to welcome Professor Michael Goodsite, the Pro Vice-Chancellor, Energy Futures, and Director, Institute for Sustainability, Energy and Resources at the University of Adelaide. Dr. Bronwyn Camac, the Director of the Geological Survey of South Australia, Department of Energy and Mining. Brett Triffett, Innovation Practice Lead with Think and Act Differently at BHP. Adrian Beer, the Chief Executive Officer at Mets Ignited. Simon Ratcliffe, the Chief Technology Officer at Maptech. And Dr. Chris Greet, the Manager for Metallurgy and Minerals Processing with Magato. We also warmly welcome the participation of researchers from the ARC Training Centre, Integrated Operations, which is one of the outcomes and legacies of the PRIF. You will hear today some of the research started in the PRIF is now being carried into and expanded upon in the training centre. Today is a celebration of a research program that will conclude next year, but which has proven to be not only a success scientifically, but also a demonstration of how government, academia, and industry can work effectively together towards their shared goals. South Australia is an awesome place to do research, not only because of the facilities, but because there is a community out there willing to listen, to support, get involved, and capitalise on that research. Above all, we celebrate the achievements of our young researchers, and even though the PRIF still has 9 months to run, we look forward to seeing how the outcomes and networks from the PRIF can launch yet bigger and greater things in the future. It's also worthwhile pointing out how the PRIF has been exemplary in terms of showcasing the valuable synergies between the two universities at a time when a merger is being developed between the two. Here's a quick snapshot of some of our achievements in the PRIF. This has been a 6.5-year SA government initiative that started in October 2017, meaning that we've been through the whole COVID pandemic. There are 17 industry partners, 2 university partners, 2 different programs, Program A and B, in which A focused on the optimization of upstream processes in the mining value chain, whereas Program B focused on mineral processing downstream. We've had 14 research projects and another 11 translation projects within the PRIF. 15 chief investigators, 8 postdoc researchers, and 10 higher degree by research students. At the present time, there's 161 publications that have come out of the PRIF, of which 123 are already published. We've awarded 17 Women in Mining Technology scholarships, and at the moment, 21 of the 25 projects have been completed. You're going to hear about some of these today. 4 projects in particular are selected as potentially implementable to be commercialised during our extension period, which we're in now. We had a commendation for innovation and collaboration in the resources sector at the Premier's Mining Awards in Mining and Energy last year. And going beyond these numbers, I could easily add the 3 innovation disclosures, the tens of millions of dollars of additional funding secured or sought, including the ARC Training Centre, as well as the hundreds of presentations that have been given by PRIF researchers over the past 6.5 years. The PRIF program was designed to integrate machine learning, sensors, and data analytics across the entire mining value chain, creating technology solutions to maximize copper production and with potential application to other commodity sectors. This journey has taken us from metal organic frameworks at the atomic scale, through building sensors, to addressing opportunities for increased efficiencies across mine sites and metallurgical plants. The PRIF journey has also meant that many of us scientists and engineers have needed to get quickly up to speed on how to transform great ideas into products that can actually turn a profit and create jobs. And we thank our governing board, our scientific steering committees, and our legacy group for all their time, input, and wisdom in doing that. Beyond the projects and the numbers, of course, there are the people that make up the PRIF. Our PhD candidates whose experience has made them highly sought after as employees, destined for successful careers with organisations like Talison Lithium, CSIRO, Carl Zeiss, or to continue research, as some of them are doing. It really has been wonderful to see your confidence and skill sets grow during the PRIF, and we also thank everybody else who in one way or another has assisted the PRIF to flourish over the last 6.5 years. But it's not only the individuals that have made the PRIF successful, it's the team spirit, the willingness to learn from one another, to cross and combine disciplines, and to go out of our traditional comfort zones. Now, as some of you know, I love my 1970s rock music, and the last Waltz concert was a celebration by one of my all-time favorite groups, the Band. This concert and the film of the concert, directed by Scorsese, is a timeless memorial to a team of skilled individuals. At this final concert, they were joined on stage by the megastars of the day. Well, now it's time for the PRIF's last waltz. Unfortunately, Bob Dylan, Van Morrison, Ringo Starr were unable to join us today for different reasons. But instead, we have a really terrific lineup of speakers and 2 panel discussions ahead of us during the day. Today, you're going to hear about the latest developments in the PRIF projects that are moving towards commercialization, and you'll also hear from several friends of the PRIF, experts from across our translation partners, government, and the 2 universities talking about how to achieve successful translation of research and to maximize collaboration to solve key issues for the mining industry. Now, this is our last waltz today, but we may yet have a reunion tour in a few years' time. I want you to enjoy today, to celebrate with our young researchers, and to participate in the discussions that we're going to have. Thank you.
Is this like a John Farnham final tour, Nigel?
Who's John Farnham?
Back again. As our first guest speaker of the day, we welcome Professor Michael Goodsite, the Pro Vice-Chancellor Energy Futures and Director of the Institute for Sustainability, Energy and Resources at the University of Adelaide, ISA. Michael also has an executive oversight of the university's research commercialisation, business development and partnerships. Michael is a chartered civil and environmental engineering professor and engineering executive whose research is focused on meeting resource demand while minimising impact on the environment. Currently, Professor Goodsite is bid sponsor for the Scaling Green Hydrogen CRC, as well as for the Copper for Tomorrow CRC bid, and a part of the university's committee for CRCs. In past lives, Mike was the director of the US Army Cyber Counterintelligence Activity. And on a lighter note, Mike has been in a movie, The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, a 1981 American crime thriller. Mike, perhaps you could reenact the line you had in the movie.
He went that way.
Excellent. Welcome, Professor Michael Goodsite.
Thank you all, and firstly I'd like to also acknowledge that we meet on the lands of the Kaurna people and acknowledge our elders past, present, and emerging. Everything we do in this sector, as you know better than I, needs to be done with respect for and as a journey together with the traditional owners of the land. So I picked up on a couple of things. Go higher, further, faster. The PRIF has demonstrated that you do this best achieving together. And this means that everything you've accomplished in the PRIF, and a very senior government official told me just recently that the PRIF is one of the best examples of university-industry collaboration that they have ever experienced, that all of you involved own this, all of you, and congratulations for that. You're seen, you're valued, not only by society, but by those around you at the university. To create a PRIF, you have to have a strong foundation and a strong vision. And I can see my staff getting nervous because they're like, he's not reading his speech notes at all. But just looking at this room, I reflect that we have a former executive dean here, Professor Peter Dowd. And all of us here today are here because of some of that vision that he drove while as an executive dean. This university, this state has a lot to thank you for, Peter. And in hard times, and I know you didn't ask for this thanks, but you too, your efforts are greatly appreciated. Thank you for your leadership and vision and consummate championship of this sector and all you're doing for the sector now through your research and the students and working with the PRIF. The accomplishments that you have been done together and done often with the assistance not only of strong industry partnership, but also with strong voluntary advisors. And Gavin Yates is here today as a chair, and he has been here every meeting, and from the first time I met him, which was at the genesis of the Copper for Tomorrow CRC at a PRIF board meeting, his leadership has been candid, constructive, and challenging in a positive manner to help the university drive forward results for society, because the university exists for society, not the other way around. Gavin, thank you for all your time and all your championship and your trusted advice. So to borrow a line from another movie, let's start at the end. And I guess I flipped through with here. A couple of years ago, at a PRIF meeting, the call was put out. How do we take all this effort and turn it into the next big thing? And the notion was, well, we could create a CRC. Now, this wasn't a small thing. The university at that point had not led a CRC bid in over 10 years. We were in the process of a CRC, the heavy industry low carbon transition, and we ended up winning that. And Carmen and others from the state, we wouldn't have done that unless we had a nod from the state that this was important to try. And so thank you and the state for your consummate championship. I'm going to show you the first draft of the slides that Gavin and team, as chair of the CRC, has put together for the interview on October 30th. Because you all can be very proud that out of all the bids that were submitted for a CRC in this present round, which actually represents bids spanning 2 rounds because the past round was canceled due to a federal election, it's one of 6 that's in the finals. One of 6. And it's unique. This is so unique that when they go to interview, Jim McCluskey, who many of you know from BHP, will be briefing this slide together with Gavin and Sukhbir, a colleague from UniSA. So I'll just flow through this. You all know all this. All of this you're helping to address in the PRIF. I'm not going to brief it as Jim because I'm not Jim, but what I would like you to do is if you see something that you think we can improve upon as we go to interview, please do. The National Industry Challenge, closing the gap. And by the way, we're getting rid of these step things because we believe that we just want the message up front. Closing the gap means bringing us from the second globally known copper resource nation, economic copper reserve, from number 9 and closing that gap. Even just raising it consistently to number 8 or 6, I don't have to tell you all the economic impact that's going to have, not just for Australia, but for the world. The research program has overarching ESG fundamentals, coupled with mining, extraction, and processing, led by leaders in the room and working together as another great example of how our university may come together. Education and training that's modeled from the learnings from Peter's Training Center and the PRIF. Research and translation sandpits, very much modeled after the examples here that you're going to hear more about today, and all of it to solve the industry challenge and deliver for our state, nation, country, and industry. We have to have the copper to get to a green energy transition, and to do that while minimizing impact on the environment, we also have to have a business case. Nothing's free. People get that. You that are trained in this world get that. And we're going to do it together with the First Nations people. So we have our core of mining companies, both Tier 1 and other tiers, all the way down to SMEs. And Virocopper that's been worked together with people in this room again from its inception to now. We have universities that have been invited in by industry. They haven't been able to join as a subscriber to the CRC. We have the Mets and the associations, local and international, and we have strong government support. It's a small CRC compared to other CRC bids because we did not accept funding from the universities by intention to allow ultimate agility and industry-led thought leadership for the research that goes on. So it will be a catalyst for future investment and growth, just as we've seen with other successful CRCs in this sector. And I can't think of a CRC in this sector that hasn't been successful because of the amazing leadership across academia and industry. And the type of leadership that Nigel, for example, has in academia is matched by his leadership, full stop. So for all of those that have had an opportunity to work with people like Nigel and Bill Skinner, think of them not only as amazing leaders, and Peter, think of them as champions, mentors, leaders, and academics. And that's a combination that actually I think more professors should strive to. They all inspire me, and I strive to get there myself. So last time when we spoke, we said we don't have enough industry support to go to bid. Those of you in this room got strongly behind us, and we actually raised $4.3 million more between us finding out we made it to stage 1, getting to stage 2, thanks to many of you in this room. And all this anchored by BHP. And Kathy, thank you for your leadership and internal support, together with Jim McCluskey and the entire team. This bid could not have happened without a strong mining company providing the vision that it takes to bring this ecosystem together. And and I understand that that just doesn't happen. That happens on the back of the trust and cooperation that you have through the years of working together with a consortium such as is already functioning with the PRIF. $8.5 million in third-party contributions, additional industry contributions project by project, smaller but driven, traditionally owned companies such as the Reform Group with one of their CTOs, Roy Jansen, in the back. And Roy, thank you. And everybody up here, we could not have done this without you. And if you're not on that list yet, either by mistake because we missed you in our haste developing these slides, we'll fix that, or because you haven't yet decided this is for you, have a look. It's not too late to join. We haven't gone to interview yet. You can come on board, and you're welcome. Leadership team, this is the interim. This is how we're going to get up and running. We will have a board that's skills-based and primarily external partners, and an ongoing leadership team that many faces you know again to get this off the ground. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for your inspiration, your hard work, for the industry people here, your support, the fact that you're giving our graduates amazing opportunities in industry, not just to pursue their own academic interests, but to make a difference in our world today. You don't need to hear it from me that everything you do is important and makes a difference, but I want you to know that the university sees it, we recognize it, and we value it, and we look forward to working together with the University of South Australia to become Adelaide University if the Parliament of South Australia votes that they're going to endorse the recommendations of the council to do that. And Bill, I'll put you on the spot. When I first was asked to lead the predecessor of Eimer, one of the first people who stopped by my office to either congratulate or commiserate me, I still haven't quite figured that out, was Bill Skinner. And I thought, well, this is interesting that a colleague from another university is stopping by because at many other institutions, universities see themselves as competitors. But I've seen with Bill's consummate championship that we have always been collaborators and friends. And Bill, thank you. And it excites me that when we see a core future effort in mining and resources for this state with a future university, that we absolutely can demonstrate the track record of goodwill and accomplishment, achieving, indeed, together to go higher, further, and faster. Thank you all again. I wish you a great conference. Because of the merger dialogues, I'll be in and out during the day, but I intend to be here and look forward to chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
We've got time for one question for Mike, if anyone's got one. Anyone? Question? No? Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Our next guest speaker is Dr. Bronwyn Camac, the Director of the Geological Survey of South Australia in the Department for Energy and Mining. Bronwyn has over 30 years' experience in the oil and gas industry as both a geologist and in management. She has worked across the sector. Her experience includes pre-competitive digital log data creation and management, operations geology, conventional and unconventional oil and gas exploration and development, and government and stakeholder engagement. Bronwyn gained her PhD in engineering science in 2010 from the University of Adelaide. And she has now turned her attention to the minerals industry with a specific focus on delivering the Critical Minerals Project and strategy for South Australia. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Bronwyn Camac.
Thank you so much for having us here. I'm here representing Paul Hethersay, who couldn't be here today, and he was very disappointed to be here, but it's a great opportunity for me to come and speak to you today and hear about all the amazing work that you're doing. Firstly, thanks, Ruth, for the warm welcome of introduction. How do I turn the slides? Oh, yeah. It's really important to us in the government. We have our own acknowledgement of country, and I'd really like to take that time and sort of go through this today. So as guests on Aboriginal land, the Department for Energy and Mining acknowledges everything this department does impacts on Aboriginal country, the sea, the sky, its people, and the spiritual and cultural connections which have existed since the first sunrise. Our responsibility is to share our collective knowledge, recognise the difficult history, respect the relationships made over time, and create a stronger future. We are ready to walk, learn, and work together. And I think it's just a really heartfelt message, and we all feel very passionate about that and really live it every day. Thank you to Professor Michael Goodsite, the Vice-Chancellor, Energy Futures and Director of the Institute for Sustainability, Energy and Resources. That's quite a title. It's very impressive. And thank you also to Professor Nigel Cook for having us here today, and all of the wonderful collaborators from the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia. On behalf of Paul Hethersay, who advocated for the South Australian Government to fund this initiative, it means a lot to be here to celebrate the PRIF's many innovations and inventions. From what you'll share today, you'll deliver an impressive catalogue of applied results over this venture that will set up our mineral sector for long-term success. Your commendation in the 2022 Premier's Excellent Awards in Energy and Mining is just one of the many accolades you deserve. Perhaps it's the greatest is knowing that the work that you have achieved here will contribute greatly to the global decarbonisation reduction agenda. Nigel has asked me to speak of some of the government's agenda, so I will weave that through as we go. We have 3 missions, and I'll just throw on a bit extra stuff that what we're trying to do in the department as well that's relevant to this group. We have 3 missions. So the first mission is capitalising on the global green transition. So your accomplishments are perfectly aligned with the government's economic direction, and its first mission to do this capitalisation on the green transition. As we all know, copper is the essential ingredient. Its versatility shining through as a metal of the present and the future. There is no clean energy future which doesn't demand more copper to meet net zero targets the world is trying to meet. South Australia has the lion's share of Australia's copper resource at 69% of all of Australia's resource. And you know more than anyone that these copper deposits are mineralogically very complex. With the most to gain from better processing, we have every expectation that the solutions emanating from the work that you have achieved will help to fuel the copper's growth trajectory. In the 7 years of focused endeavour, or 6.5 years to 7 years, during the time of this consortia, the achievements are many, and they include a 2% increase in copper recovery, 15% increase in throughput, 17% increase in production, and 4 projects that have been selected with having the potential to be commercialised. We'll make sure that we'll highlight these outstanding achievements and results through all of our networks through the government. Copper is the highest value metal South Australian exports in terms of gross sales value, so keeping copper processing on a competitive footing is an excellent return on investment from the 7 years of government. Our government has backed the bid for Copper for Tomorrow to see this good work continue. The government in this year's budget has allocated $2 million over the next 4 years for a new copper task force. This task force will work alongside our state copper producers and explorers to develop a long-term strategy to enhance the state's position as a global copper heavyweight. So second mission from our government is to be a partner of choice in an insecure world. Now, we've all seen in the news over the last few weeks and months that we're having quite a lot of unrest through the world, but really, what we want to be doing is really positioning our state to be able to really enhance and really support the long-term sustainability in our lifestyle, basically, by delivering these metals and minerals. So the work accomplished in this consortium has modelled how to be a partner of choice, addressing industry needs and enlivening our mining value chain. The government recognises that clean energy will have in South Australia is a spark that can drive our economy to grow regions and build stronger manufacturing sector. Building out from the hydrogen jobs plan, we're undertaking detailed work with industry to understand the supply chains to realise these ambitions for mining and processing, energy transition minerals, metallurgical recycling focused on green waste. I'll just pop that up. I'm sure you're all aware, but we are very much focused on the strategic development of our minerals for the global energy transformation, and part of that is our investment in renewables and also in the hydrogen going forward. And what we can do here is be able to apply this energy strategy and development towards copper and magnetite, embedding that renewable energy into our magnetite processing and developing a green steel that can be exported through the world, and embedding that renewable energy into those products. Relevant to our mineral wealth is the opportunity to build supply chains and to do more with critical minerals, especially processing. I encourage you all to stay across these policy initiatives as they are announced over the next year. There's quite a bit being done across critical minerals, magnetite and copper within the department at the moment, and the work that you guys are doing are absolutely part of that policy initiative. The polymetallic nature of our ore opens up opportunities to harvest critical minerals and revisit waste tailings and process them. Like the PRIF setup, a combination of industry, government and academia coordinated activity can help unlock this value. Pre-competitive geoscience is the key for our met sector. Over the last couple of years, we have been undertaking a robust assessment to understand the inventory of critical minerals that we have across the state. We've begun by learning what we've got in our core library, and there's a lovely photo of our lovely core library there, accessing opportunities in our mine waste. We've already sampled across 3 sites in the state and going to continue on in that program, and developing high quality information and undertaking an economic and market analysis as part of that project. Of course, pre-competitive geoscience efforts involve gathering a wide range of geological, geophysical and geochemical data about a region, and particularly for us, obviously, it's South Australia. This data can be essential for companies in the MET sector as it provides them with a comprehensive understanding of subsurface conditions, mineral deposits and potential resources. Having access to this data can guide exploration efforts and reduce the risks associated with resource discovery. Obviously, one of the primary benefits of what we do at the state government in terms of providing this pre-competitive geoscience information, it is free. We offer it absolutely free, and we know a number of the other surveys across Australia do the same thing, but that's not necessarily what it's like globally. So we're very proud of the opportunity that we have, that our government invests in this information that we can provide free of charge out to industry. This reduces the duplication of efforts, minimises expenses, and allows METS companies to allocate resources more efficiently. Obviously, it helps with targeted exploration for the same reasons, and helps with higher probabilities of success, saving time and resources. Pre-competitive geoscience can also drive technological innovation. As data is collected and shared, it stimulates the development of new technology and methodologies for resource exploration, extraction and processing. METS companies can leverage these innovations to improve their operations and stay competitive. We also have, obviously, it in risk mitigation as well, where this data can offer that opportunity to understand the economics behind your projects and mitigate those risks. And really, in terms of collaborative partnerships, we foster collaboration, and you see this today. This is a great, obviously an example of where we have collaborated strongly, but we often love to collaborate with lots of different stakeholders across institutions, other government and industry. These collaborations lead to knowledge sharing, joint research projects and the development of best practices. The PRIF Mining Consortium, as I said, is a great example of this. I can go on. We've obviously got quite a big investment in our regulatory and environmental compliance, and the data that we generate is used, quite actively by our regulators in terms of offering advice from industry to the regulators to make sure that we try and offer the best advice possible so that you guys can get on with what you do best. And in terms of long-term sustainability, the MET sector relies on a steady supply of mineral resources. Competitive geoscience contributes to the long-term sustainability of this sector by identifying new resource deposits and, of course, promoting responsible resource and management. This is a slide really just to show you across the state at the moment where we're looking at in our critical mineral studies. So we know that we're very strong. We're playing to our strengths in terms of mineral sands. We have graphite deposits, rare earth elements being found like everywhere, cobalt mostly associated with our copper deposits, and kaolin and halloysite over on the peninsula, which are a potential source of HPA, and magnesium. But really the study that we're doing at the moment in pre-competitive geoscience is attacking all of this at once. It is a three-tiered approach where we're looking in the core library for what we've missed, what we've thrown away in the mine waste, and also a big state stock take of what we've got. And we're offering products, and we will be offering products over the next few months to show you about what we're doing here. So mission 3 is building our talent. The government's third economic mission is to do this, and the PRIF has modelled how this can be achieved. You have brought industry, private enterprises and the best minds together to understand the challenges and diagnose and move forward with robust solutions. The connections you have forged have built teams looking from everything from nanoscale to the micron and to characterising cores. And then gone the extra mile to combine knowledge with a strong sensing group. Technologies, commercialisation pathways and the broader mining processing innovation landscape have all happened here. The upskilling has been amazing, over 14 research projects and 11 translation projects with 15 experienced researchers, 10 higher degree research students, 8 postdoctoral students, and awarding 17 Women in Mining Technology scholarships, and many, many publications and papers. The consortium, taking theories and putting into action, gives scientists the opportunities to be on site and develop technologies to test in mines. And what funding pools are available now? The Department for Industry, Innovation and Science manages the Research and Innovation Fund launched in 2019, PRIF being its predecessor. As we see now, this fund plays a crucial role in supporting researchers and entrepreneurs. It has been instrumental in supporting the mining, energy and resources. Some notable examples include support for the heavy industry, local carbon transition, the HILT CRC, the current CRC bids, scaling green hydrogen CRC, and Copper for Tomorrow CRC, and attracting research talent into the Institute for Sustainability, Energy and Resources at the University of Adelaide. Over 7 years, the PRIF Consortium has risen to the challenge, placing innovation and shown what can be done as we work to build a Tier 1 copper destination with industry here in this state. The research that you have achieved is of international scope and significance, and I'm sure the knowledge developed from this body of work can be used for decades ahead. And that's important, as our resources are probably large enough to be mined well into the 23rd century. So congratulations, everybody, and thank you very much for having me here today. I'm not sure what's going on there. We've got some rogue slides in there. Apologies.
It's gone from the big screen.
That's good.
Any questions?
Nothing's wrong, thank you.
Our next guest will be joining us online. So Brett Triffett is BHP's practice lead for studies in the Global Innovation Group, which is now known as Think and Act Differently. His 30-year career in the mining industry has led him through operations to corporate technical services, major project development, and ultimately to innovation. He is passionate about connecting technology development to resource development to create a practical vision for what the mines of the future could look like. Welcome, Brett Triffett.
Thanks so much, Ruth. Hi, everybody. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share some thinking with you today, to share something that I think is really important to me and I'm really passionate about. As Ruth said, I work for BHP's Think and Act Differently team, or TAD for short. And some of you might be familiar with TAD from when we were a part of Oz Minerals, but I'm really happy to let you know today that TAD has now been fully integrated into BHP's global innovation team, and we're now powered by BHP, which we're really, really excited about. What I'd like to do today is run you through 3 things. So firstly, I'll tell you a little bit about TAD for those of you who are not familiar with who we are and what we do. Secondly, I'd like to introduce something that I'm working on, which is our concept of operations framework. And why I think this is a really important thing maybe to talk about today is because I think this is something we're developing to help us prioritise our innovation efforts. And I'd like to finally share with you a bit of a case study for how we've been using this framework in anger. And what I'm hoping you will come away with today from listening to me for a few minutes is an understanding of how all of the work that you're doing in the PRIF and beyond the PRIF connects to this framework, and how we as a collective might level up our thinking to tell a much broader, much more connected story. So whether you're working on kind of hands-on research, or setting research strategy, or securing funding for research, or setting government policy related to South Australia's resources, hopefully you can see yourself showing up in this framework, and that will kind of help to create a bit of a common language around how we work together to advance the extraction of value from the resources. So firstly, a little bit about TAD. Sorry, I've gone ahead too quickly. So founded in 2021, TAD's a technology and resource development ecosystem, and we bring people together to from inside and outside the mining sector to tackle complex issues. We like to challenge norms. We try to do things differently, as the name suggests, and we're looking for new ways to extract minerals to try to create broader value for all of our stakeholders. So we accelerate themes that will unlock new value from our resources. We like to emphasise the prioritisation of social and environmental responsibility. And we really emphasise as well a human-first approach, where all the innovators that we work with have an amazing experience when they come and work with us. So over the last few years, TAD has built up a pretty vibrant ecosystem. I think at last count, we were sitting at about 3,000 people in our ecosystem, which is pretty amazing, and we regard that ecosystem as our superpower. We've got a really diverse group of people and organisations in our ecosystem, and I think what that does for us is it enables us to make much more informed decisions much more quickly around how we might develop new technology and ultimately unlock new resources. So our ecosystem is a great way for researchers, innovators, OEMs, technology providers to become part of our broader journey. So in my experience, a lot of mining industry research is focused on developing new breakthrough technologies. And those efforts typically tread a really long path to commercial implementation. And I'm sure everyone in the room is familiar with the facts about new technologies taking 15 to 20 years to become a widely accepted part of everyday operations. And in-house mining innovation teams really have to walk a fine line in balancing the need to create near-term value. We've got our internal stakeholders banging the desk saying we want to see value today, but equally we need to create space to develop much more transformative breakthrough technologies over a much longer time frame. And so teams that kind of stay too far to the left or too far to the right risk either being pulled into continuous operations, continuous improvement in day-to-day operations at one extreme, or at the other extreme being accused of being much too kind of blue sky or having our head in the clouds in terms of trying to develop those breakthrough longer-term technologies. So in developing this concept of operations framework, we've formed a hypothesis that it's actually possible to effect transformative change in mining operations by using commercially available, or at least near to commercially available high TRL technologies if we innovate at the systems level. So what we're trying to do then is integrate reasonably mature technologies in novel ways to create new value chains and operating concepts. So that way we can be impactful in the short to medium term and then create space to be more transformative in the longer term. So I step you through the levels in this framework, and I hope you find this useful, thinking about all the work that you do and the work that's being done in the PRIF, the amazing work that's being done in the PRIF. So at level one, we've got our resources. So the thing we want to emphasize here is that all of the technology development efforts that we're working on should be anchored back to the resources that we're trying to unlock. So for this audience, I think we need to have a really clear understanding of the resources that our innovations are connected to. At level two are our design philosophies. So we've heard from the previous speakers about the aspirations that we have around things like decarbonisation, minimising footprints, reducing the amount of water that we use. These are all aspirations that we as mining companies, as innovators, as governments, all of our stakeholders have all of these same aspirations. And so at level 2, the intent is to really clearly define what those aspirations are that impact on the designs that we develop for our projects to unlock value from our resources. But equally, we need to consider the physical constraints that exist within an operation, existing operations, because all of these things provide the guardrails for where we can and can't go, or should and shouldn't go with our innovation efforts. So at level 3, we're starting to try to develop a narrative around operational archetypes in Think and Act Differently. So what these are the high-level operating concepts that we can use to tell a story about the numerous pathways to success for the mine over its entire life. So in TAD, we talk about 3 operational archetypes, and these have increasing degrees of technological disruption, but potentially greater longer-term value as well. So these are precision extraction, in mine recovery, and in situ recovery. And so this audience should understand what the asset narrative is for each of the assets that we're trying to create value for. And the stories that we tell about innovation need to be connected to and support that story. So at level 4, we start to get into the nuts and bolts that all of the scientists in the room will connect to. So this is where we tease out the value chains that we need to deliver on the narrative that we've created at level 3. And then at level 5, we discover, develop, and demonstrate the specific technologies that will realise that value chain. So my hypothesis is that lots and lots of research is expended at level 5, developing new technology options. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us as a collective, both researchers and mining houses, to continue to lift our thinking, to innovate at the value chain and operational archetype level. I think in doing this, we can create transformative change over a shorter time horizon. For all the researchers and technology providers in the room, being able to clearly articulate how the technology options that you're working on integrate into an entire value chain, and from there up to the strategic context of the mining company, I think is super important. You know, for us as the mining companies, I think we need to get much better at communicating that strategic context to you, so you understand how your research connects to the bigger picture and remains super relevant. I think also as a collective, we need to get much faster at how we do this. I think this means potentially doing a better job at how we choose the right research and development vehicles to match the challenge. And I think one thing I've been thinking about is how we can harness different development vehicles at different levels in the framework, and maybe they're different at different levels in the framework. Finally, on this slide, you'll notice that the levels connect to each other and they communicate with each other. So there's an obvious flow down of strategic context from top to bottom, but I think equally there should be a flow of insights from bottom to top as we experiment and learn more about our technologies, so that the strategic aims of the business can flex and as we unlock new technologies, so that there's that flow of insights from bottom to top. So here's an example of a value chain that we've been working on within TAD, as well as some of the technology options that we've been focusing on for a particular project that TAD's been working on. So to set the context here, using the framework, at level 1, we're dealing with a low-grade, shallow copper deposit. At level 2, we've got an aspiration to develop a fully decarbonised value chain, and so that kind of drives a lot of the decisions about the type of value chain and then the technology options that support that value chain. So at level 3, we've mapped out what we've called a precision extraction approach, which has a low footprint open cut operation that emphasises waste minimisation. But then we've also mapped out much more transformative in-mine recovery and in-situ recovery scenarios. But in this example on the slide, I'll take you through the precision extraction scenario at level 4 and 5. So if you kind of follow the bouncing ball from left to right, for ore body knowledge, the TAD team has been experimenting with core scanning, and this has allowed us to build a much more data-rich resource model, and that has identified that this particular ore body is much more variable than was previously understood. And it might actually be amenable to ore sorting, which is kind of one of the holy grails within the mining industry around separating ore into different grade streams. So those grade streams can be treated differently, and separating waste as well, so we don't unnecessarily process waste if we don't have to. So in the mine, we're proposing to use autonomous high precision drilling, blast hole XRF, confined blasting, and blast movement monitoring to understand and then preserve the in situ variability during the fragmentation process, and then use shovels fitted with XRF paired with equally sized trucks. So every truck knows whether it's carrying ore or waste and can be directed accordingly. To minimise the amount of waste that we're moving, we've designed the pit using machine learning, and our trucks will be autonomous so that the pit walls can be steeper, leaving more waste in the ground. Our trucks are electric, enabled by a trolley assist, and once the ore stream is crushed, it's pre-concentrated using PGN-AA technology to separate high-grade and low-grade streams, and then finally processed using a combination of our BHP heap leach technology deployed on the low grade, and then a small high grade concentrator consisting of dry vertical roller mills using 30% less energy and low energy coarse particle flotation. So I think the thing I wanted to really emphasize with this again is that the technology options that we're focusing on are commercially available already, or at least high TRL, and where the innovation is in how we integrate these together into a very different, potentially transformative value chain. So even though the technology options are a high TRL, the value chain is a low, you might consider it to be relatively low TRL. So in closing, I think what I'd like to challenge everyone in the room to think about is hopefully you've seen how your work connects into the framework and connects to the bigger picture. And unfortunately, I'm not in the room, but be keen to chat to anyone about how we might use this thinking to prioritise our research efforts. And I think there's some TAD people in the room that you can connect with to have that conversation. So if you'd like some more information about what TAD's up to, you can check out our TAD portal. I'd welcome anybody who wants to join our ecosystem, and you can do this via our webpage. We're also really active on LinkedIn and have recently launched 2 new crowd challenges around machine learning and also biotechnology. So look those up. And I'd also encourage anybody who wants to some bedtime listening. We've launched a modern mining podcast that you can listen to on your favourite streaming platform. There's 6 episodes there that we launched a couple of months ago. So thanks again for listening, and I hope you found this helpful, and enjoy the rest of the conference. And I'm sorry I can't be there.
Thank you, Brett. Do we have any questions for Brett? Lei Chen got in there first. Sorry, Ben. Lei.
Yep. Thank you, Ben. That's very interesting, the architecture we can see there. So you mentioned that the 3 operations there. And how are you going to combine that three operation modes? Is it in parallel or in serials, or is it interaction together? Just want to see what your idea is about that. Thank you.
Lay, I think we should have a good offline conversation about this, because there's lots of different ways we can think about that. What we're trying to do is map these archetypes to the types of resources that, in South Australia, for example, there are a lot of lowish grade, perhaps uneconomic resources at the moment. And I think what we're trying to do is map those archetypes to the more challenging resources. And we could do those in different combinations and permutations. So I think that's one of the challenges that we're faced with.
Thank you, Brett. So we will now hear from Professor Peter Dowd, who is the PRIF Mining Consortium Program A leader and Director of the ARC Training Centre for Integrated Operations for Complex Resources. Peter is a Professor of Mining Engineering at the University of Adelaide and has worked at universities in the UK, Canada, and was Executive Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Computer and Mathematical Sciences at the University of Adelaide from 2004 to 2012. He has consulted extensively to the mining industry in Australasia, Europe, Africa, North America and South America, and the petroleum industry in the UK and Saudi Arabia. He is an elected Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering and a Fellow of the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering. His research areas in mathematical geosciences applied to natural resources, including minerals and geothermal energy, and to environmental and climate variables. He's currently President of the International Association for Mathematical Geosciences. Outside of work, Peter has an eclectic range of hobbies. He is a cricket tragic, Peter's words, not mine. He enjoys cooking, collecting fossils, and ancient maps from the Middle Ages onwards. Welcome to the stage, Professor Peter Dowd.
Thank you. Well, this is an introduction to Program A. Program B will follow later in the day. And here we've tried in as few slides as possible to summarise where we are in terms of overview of progress and completions. Completions being a translation project or a PhD project. That has to be here, does it? On the green. So this diagram you must have seen many, many times. It's a cartoon example of what happens from the resource in the ground to a final product from a mining operation. And as most of you know, in PRIF, we've subdivided the different aspects of this into two parts. Part A, which is the part we see in the circle here, and part B, we'll see later. Sorry. Again, here a simple diagram to show what we're trying to do here. Mine to metal. Here we've put a subpart of tools for a learning system, and we're looking at upstream and downstream. Closely defined resource model, linking that to an enhanced recovery of metal. The themes of the PRIF program are optimization, resource modelling, heterogeneity, quantifying uncertainty, blending strategies, and mill feed sorting. The research approaches that we've used are real-time updating of resource models. This is a particularly interesting area. It's being approached all over the world in terms of mining operation. That is to take a resource model, which is large in an operating mine, and then being able to up that in near real time so that as decisions can be made at that time rather than they disappear before you've got an opportunity to use them. We're looking also at quantifying uncertainty, blending strategies, and mill feed sorting. The outcome so far, as you saw in one of the earlier slides, is a total of 161 publications, of which 123 have been published in international journals. We're also now in the commercialization stage, and I'm hoping that discussions around that part of it will come out during the day. You've seen this diagram before. We've used it in every one of the programs that we've had. Along the top there in blue, you can see the translation projects, and underneath that, the translations and the research projects, and underneath that, the project number, together with the name of the person involved in it. I'll come to more detail in that in later slides. So where are we now in terms of what we wanted to achieve for Program A? These fall into two categories: translation projects and research projects. Translation projects are generally those that have been through another level and they're being implemented by postdoctoral researchers and senior researchers. The research projects are largely PhD projects. So the first one you see on there finished some time ago. Initially, that was for a RFID tagging system that was to be implemented at Prominent Hill. That never progressed, so that project some work was done in it, but was never implemented at a mine site. The second part of Project 1 was a resource heterogeneity modelling for optimal ore extraction. And this is the same postdoctoral researcher, Amir Adeli, who's now gainfully employed in the mining industry in Western Australia. That's completed. Performance assessment of LIDAR muck pile fragmentation measurements. That was done by some MSc students, not members of the training centre itself, but it was part of their program of their MSc. That's completed. Active thermography for determining steely versus non-steely hematites in core samples. That one has also been completed by Dr. Dale Otten. The run-of-mine stockpile modelling is one of the largest projects that we've had, or largest translation projects at least, led by Dr. Shi Zhao. That's the original version of this was completed some time ago. There was then a 14-month extension for stages 4 and 5, and at the moment that's around 80% completed. 5 is advanced mine optimization under uncertainty from Dr. Annette Neumann. Annette is in the room, and so is Shi Zhao, and you'll hear from them later. Mill feed sorting to optimize throughput and energy use, Dr. Zhongqi Zhang has completed. And here we have a list of all of the research projects. These are PhD projects. The first one, that was a student who started but didn't last very long and went to work in the mining industry, so that was treated as withdrawn. Number 2 is a PhD project, a very, very good project. I have to say that because I was one of her supervisors, but nevertheless, she was very good at doing this. What happened is when she finished, she went to work in the mining industry. And what always happens is that comes first, and the submission of the thesis falls far behind. She has assured me that it will be finished by the end of this year. So I'd say it's around 95% completed. It's actually completed, but it's only really completed when she gets a PhD. The third one, constraints and quantifying uncertainty on resource domain boundaries. That was a PhD project by Yerniyaz Abildin, who's also here in the room. That was such a good project and such a good idea that it's been extended and is going to be some form of commercialization around this that we'll come to later. That's been extended as a PDR project for 12 months. I've also noted there that he qualified for his PhD earlier this month. Well done. 4-part 1 is correlation of elemental, mineralogical and hyperspectral with sensor data for mineral identification. Dr. Dale Otten did that one. It's about 10% completed, but it never really progressed because there were not sufficient data to be used. The next one is Amir Adeli, who is again one of our PhD or our higher degree by research students. Geometallurgical model completed. The next 3, 5, 6, and 7, Hirata Simi, who's going to talk later today, Yue Shi and Hu Wang, they all have their PhDs awarded. We thought in constructing these presentations, it would be useful to identify some highlights. Of course, if you really want to know about the projects, you'd have to delve deeply into them. But here, I hope this is an overview from which you will see what was actually done in these and some of the most significant components of them. Delivery of spatial predictive modelling, that's hybrid geodomaining. Again, that's Yerniyaz Abildin's program. This is an approach using machine learning and geostatistics, data-driven decision-making, reducing the impact of human bias on the modelling and process of results, and then handling uncertainty and scalability. The provision of quantified probability and predictions to generalise the domaining framework for broad applications. This is now, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say commercialising, but it's certainly progressing towards commercialisation with MapTech. The research outcomes from this are the potential that it will be integrated into spatial modelling cloud platform that MapTech have. The next one is Hired, who I mentioned the previous slide. Some highlights from his project. He's developed a new model in his PhD project that speeds up the decision-making process for managing stockpiles, also for cutting costs and boosting overall efficiency. The approach that he's developed ensures that material qualities stay within set boundaries. That minimises the risk then of fees for undesirable properties. The model offers accurate blending, which results in planning in both short and long-term blending requirements. Hired is currently collaborating with Shi Zhao, that's training project number 5, to integrate his models into Echa software. So again, another potential commercialization success. And then alongside that, I mentioned Shi Zhao on the previous slide. This is Research Project 4. This is a much more detailed version of what he's been doing over the past few years. This project generates and continuously updates three-dimensional stockpile models in near real time. Does this through widely available operational data from mining sites. These 3D models will improve the accuracy of calculating the quality of run-of-mine stockpiles and enable optimization for reclamation from those stockpiles. The models will assist mine managers to monitor both the quality of the stockpile and the quality distribution within a stockpile. The models also contribute to optimizing reclamation processes for multiple front-end loaders. That ensures efficient scheduling of the loaders to achieve required quantity and quality. This project is around 80% completed as of last week. It's a project that has moved from TRL4 to TRL5. Annette Neumann, who has also worked in this area of quantifying the effects of geological uncertainty on long-term scheduling. She's developed and created effective optimization models by integrating uncertainty models in a constrained commercial mine optimizer. She's designed and analysed an AI-based algorithm and problems with uncertainties and integrated uncertainty quantification into translation partner MapTech's evolution software. She's integrated the visualization of uncertainty into the translation partner software based on new research insights, and that project's now at TRL6. So these last two that I've showed you here, or last three I think, have demonstrated that these outputs are commercializable, and most of them are on the way to being highly commercialized. I'm not sure you can see everything on this diagram, but this diagram and the next one are ones that we've produced at each one of these conferences, and the idea is to demonstrate the TRLs and where they would be at the completion. So I won't go through them all in great detail, but you can see in each of these, in the first one, the red, that's invention. The one in the purple colour is integration, and the one in the blue at the end is implementation. Now, ideally, we would like to have an arrow going from each one of these projects on the left right across to the right-hand side. But as most of you know, there's a very large gap in moving from something that has been demonstrated in a laboratory or in something similar to that, and then making that work and be implemented within an industry. So you can see from the top there what the names of each of those TRL levels. Most of them now are going to finish between TRL 4 and TRL 5, but I'm reasonably confident that at least say 25% of these, providing there is funding to carry on after the submission of the work that was done in the PRIF, there is a possibility of bringing these to commercialisable levels. The next one is the translation projects. These are the ones that have been done largely by the postdoctoral researchers. And again, the same thing applies. You can see most of these are confined to TRL 5 and less, maybe TRL 6 as well. The dashed arrow here means it's possible to go across further into one of those other columns. So in terms of delivering research, all of these are at some point available within the red area. That is, they've done this within in the environment of a PhD or a translation project within the university. The next stage is to get them integrated and developed, ready to be delivered into the final stage, which is implementation in industry. And I think that's something that Nigel has pushed for a long time through the PRIF. It's something we're pushing through the training centre as well, but at a much lower or much earlier period of time. And this is the area, I think, that we really have to be careful that we are able to keep something moving after the people who deliver those projects leave us, or if they're re-engaged in postdoctoral research projects, and to keep those going to get them into that final implementation stage. That really would represent a great output from the PRIF, and similarly for the training centre. So acknowledgements listed here, each of the university supervisors, photos on the left, our end user partners, our translation partners, and all of our PhD students and postdoctoral researchers in the PRIF. That's all I have.
Do we have any questions for Peter? Can we just wait for the microphone? Here it comes.
Yes, just a question following on from your last slide about how can I put it, career progress of what can you say about your thoughts on the transition of people out of PhDs on into industry, but also carrying on in a way the sort of investigations and the findings that have. What's wrong with the current model? How would you like to see it improved?
One of these that you saw there, Yerniyaz Abildin's project, he is now working in industry with MapTech and delivering what he did in his PhD project and bringing that up to level, I would hope, somewhere near the end of what we saw on there. That's the ideal output. I can't say that that will happen for every one of the projects, but what I can say, certainly from what I've seen in the PRIF and definitely within the training centre, all of these PhD students will find and are finding positions in a mining company. So within certain constraints, that could carry on in that way. The constraints are the ownership of the work that was done. So we can't simply say, here's all this work that's been done within the PRIF or within the training centre for the last X years. We can't just pass it on to somebody else without some arrangement around this where the IP is valued and there is some return back to the university for doing that. So that is a slight difficulty, but I think we can overcome that. I'm not sure I answered your question, but ideally you would conduct the research in the university. You would move this with the researchers into industry, and within that industry, in collaboration with the universities, you would get something that's finally a project, a program that could be worked with in industry. But that sounds easy, but it's not.
Thank you, Peter. Now we've heard a lot about him, and our next presenter is Dr. Yerniyaz Abildin. Yerniyaz is our first PRIF researcher presenting today. Dr. Yerniyaz joined the PRIF Mining Consortium in 2019 as an international PhD student. In April, he completed his PhD, and on the 5th of October, Dr. Yerniyaz received the conferral of his doctorate degree. Congratulations. During his PhD, Dr. Yerniyaz developed a geological domain method that provides a more accurate resource model and domain boundaries. Dr. Yerniyaz is currently pursuing advanced research in geological domain modelling and data science and geosciences, translating his geological model into MapTech's cutting-edge software as a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Adelaide. He is committed to lifelong learning and pushing the boundaries of knowledge in these dynamic fields. Dr. Yerniyaz even deleted Instagram from his phone to spend more time doing his research. Welcome, Dr. Yerniyaz Abildin.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Ruth. It's nice to be here, and it's also nice to hear that I'm a doctor now. So, today I will talk about constraints and quantifying uncertainty on resource domain boundaries. So, overall, the project aim is to quantify the domain boundaries to reduce the uncertainty on the resource model and also in mill feed. So it can meet the sellable product specification. In overall mine value chain, it's located within the exploration and evaluation stage here in a red box. So before we start, I would like to show some maps to you. And imagine that you have a geological domain map that look like this. This is the combination of geostatistics and machine learning, but you now spice it up with more machine learning and get something different. You capture something which was unseen before, or it's hard to recognize. So we'll talk about that today. And in sense of mineral resource estimation, mineral resource estimation has 4 steps: data preparation, geological modeling or defining domain of interest, and later on estimation within these domains, and determination of uncertainty. So my project is directly linked to the second stage here, which is domaining or geological modeling. And just to give you some analogy, just imagine that you have a jigsaw puzzle and you would like to get your puppy. So how you do that? You just get the features, patterns correct, get the background color, and so on. Now you can find your puppy, which brings joy to your life. So this is basically domaining like that. You want to get your puppy so that it can later on bring you joy in estimation stage. So hybrid domaining framework consists of 2 main parts. First one is the traditional or modern geostatistical simulation, and next one is the second part is machine learning, which also has 2 steps here, is pre-processing, then domain classification. So basically we have inputs, categorical and continuous variables. We use continuous grade variables in a geostatistical simulation, and lithology we use with grades in pre-processing and domain classification in order to get our probabilistic domains as output. So the part simulation, next 2 slides is just to show you that everything is done within established procedures in simulation, in geostatistics. So the case study here is IOCG deposit Prominent Hill. Used to be the Osminos, now BHP. So the cross-validation, everything, variography was done correctly, and later on the results were used in the classification part. So the classification part, basically we have 20 variables, which is assay grades. Then we have our output lithology, and within that we have 12 classes. And what we do, we train a classifier to predict those classes based on the assay grades, purely continuous variables. Then based on different tests and so on, we got that gradient boosting methods perform the best, around 81% accuracy, with accuracy. So just to give you some visual understanding how the maps look like in 3D, so you can see that, for example, in the left-hand side is a reference model from Prominent Hill. It has just 5 classes, but this is not like direct comparison apple to apple. It's basically like a fruit comparison. So it's like orange and apple or something like that. And the results for example, we get like 100 realizations after our method, and they look like that, a bit patchy. But what we are looking for really is different thing. Is the most probable map, and you can see that the most of the features are captured, and compared to the reference model, you have more features, I mean more classes here. And it's good. It's like makes geologists' life easier in general, mine geologists' life easier. And the key advantage here is that it can produce the probability map. So based on probability map, you can see where you have uncertain domain boundaries, where you have certain domains. So as I said before, why is preprocessing important here is that some of the classes there is minor, so they completely smooth out during the modeling process. So what we do, we apply our preprocessing, which is basic noise filtering in machine learning field. So by reducing, for example, hematite breccia number of samples 27,000 up to 23, and increasing quartz breccia by those removed or relabeled samples into 3,000 from 1,500 in quartz breccia, we get completely different results. Why is that? Because we can capture in a classifier those features more distinctly, and we cross-validated with mine geologist, and he was happy that we captured it correctly, and he assumed that there is a problem in the historical data, and now he's sure, and he's happy with the map. So basically, we achieved this by spicing up with additional machine learning. And as I said before, the key advantage here is the probability maps, and now you can see that is really helpful. To bring more advantage, or to show the advantage of the hybrid domain framework, we did some benchmarking comparison with Polygon simulation, which is state-of-the-art method for categorical simulation in geostatistics. So as you can see that, again, the main features are there, but the key thing is that since we're adding quantitative information into the hybrid domain framework, we can capture the quartz breccia more correctly than the Polygon simulation, even though the Polygon simulation honors the proportion of the categorical variables. And of course, both of them can provide the probability. And we did some also comparative study in updating. Whenever you have, for example, exploration data, and later on you got some RC drill holes, what happened to the boundaries? So this is a partial updating, which means that some of the quantitative variable updated fully, some of them not. And you can see that with updating in Polygon simulation, yeah, you have a bit like erratic boundaries, but in hybrid domain framework is still honors the original exploration features for the domains, and also it increases certainty in some boundaries or in some locations. So this is everything presented as a research output in papers, so you can look for that if you want to have some details. So again, when we come to the hybrid domain framework, what's happening with hybrid domain framework now is, so basically we are in collaboration with MapTech, and MapTech has a domain MCF where MCF stands for the MapTech Computing Framework. Is a great platform to get hybrid domain framework HDF integrated in. So currently, most of the codes operate in operational form, and it needs more additional work in order to level up the overall code to production level code, and it will escalate the TRL, CRL into the next level. So I would like to say that the HDF will be very valuable package in this domain MCF. So what will happen next, hopefully, is we will get our commercialization done. And here I want to say or give some analogy again. So basically here, if you like imagine that this is the Sinners or Domain MCF Street Boys band, for example, and I'm a kind of new member, so it will be much easier to me or show my voice to the audience basically through this way. Then I will be like solo singer, even though my singing a bit bad. Although it's a really good way to show that whenever you are buddying up with someone, it's much easier to the researcher to get the commercialization or TRL or CRL to the next level. Yeah, this is basically it. And I would like to thank Simon Radcliffe here, because he was really motivating to get this project into the commercialization stage. And in general, I would like to acknowledge my supervisors, Professor Chowshi Siu, Professor Peter Dowd, Dr. Amir Adelaide, and user partners Brett, Grant, and especially Bruce Whittaker, who helped me a lot during my PhD. And again, translation partners Simon Radcliffe and William Reid. Thank you. If you have questions, you're more than welcome.
Thanks, Yerniyaz, and thanks for not singing. To what extent could the HDF be applied to different types of ore deposits?
Yeah, actually, it's a very good question. So since the methodology is purely based on the data-driven approach, whenever we have a correlation or causation effect, we can always apply, and it's very scalable in that sense. That's why it's now in a process of integration or the collaboration or the proof of concept with MapTech. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yerniyaz. Doctor. We'll now have a break for morning tea, but before we do so, can we get everybody together for a group photo? So we'd like everybody on the stage or around the stage as close as possible so we can get a group photo. Unfortunately, that's the cost for morning tea. And then we'll break for 20 minutes for morning tea.